Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? Really like that. You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a beautiful Tuesday evening. We got a loaded show for you guys, as we always do. Want to ask you up front, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. All that good stuff. Okay, we came on this network, I would say about a month ago, okay? Right in the middle of spring practices, and we kind of previewed the upcoming spring portal window. And we told you, man, the good teams, the really good teams, they tamper in September, they tamper in October, they tamper and pay the big money to get the big players in that December portal window. Now, why would they do that? There's a bunch of reasons. The most common reason would be, well, if I get a transfer in the December window, I can make sure that young man is available and on campus and practicing for us during spring practice. We get to evaluate him. We get to get that player up to speed with the rest of the offense or defense or whatever he plays. We get to onboard that athlete. It behooves us to tamper, get that kid out of the current school he's at, get him into the portal, get him onto our roster, and bring him in town and get him there in spring. That's the first and foremost thing, right? You get guys on campus, you get to onboard them earlier and at a much higher rate, okay? Have them ready by the summer and competing for a job come fall. But also, right, in the spring, when the spring portal window opens, most of these conferences have interconference transfer rules now, okay? So though the NCAA is not out here fighting waivers, okay, conferences like the SEC have gone about making sure that in the spring you will not be stealing from other conference rivals rosters, okay? If you transfer out of Alabama right now, you will have to wait a year to play at an SEC school. So there has been also a narrowing of the pool and a narrowing of the options and the negotiating power for a lot of these young athletes that are trying or maybe wanting to hit the portal for a potential raise or a potential playing time increase or whatever have you, whatever it may be, whatever their reasoning is, there is a limitation on the amount of teams that can ultimately land them, right? And also, we have talked about leading up to this portal window and talking about during this portal window, guys, most of these football programs are relatively tapped for cash, okay? Most of them are pinned up against the, metaphorical salary cap that is out there right now in college football. What is the salary cap? Well, it is what your boosters are willing to pay on a month-to-month basis. That is essentially the cap that you're held responsible to at all these different universities, man. We've seen it all across the sport at major recruiting powerhouses, major roster acquisition places where whether it be booster dinners, hey, please give us some more money, or whether it be Ohio State already throwing the bag at everybody that was available in December, okay, or whether it be, I don't know, Oregon bought 2 quarterbacks this last transfer portal. I would imagine, even though, Phil Knight's out there, I would imagine the budgets are relatively tight up there, right? There's just not enough money left at this point, it seems, out on the open market. Every coach that I have talked to, okay, leading up to this portal and during the portal opening right now, every single coach I've talked to has been far more concerned with how in the hell am I going to afford to retain my own roster, let alone go out and poach somebody else's right now, okay? So going into it, we were kind of like, hey, man, don't expect major superstars to be hitting this portal. There might be 1 or 2, might be 2 or 3, but this whole idea that you're going to be able to flip your whole entire roster around in the spring portal window, that was a little bit outrageous to us here on this network. So we didn't expect anything too crazy. And I just never saw the reason to believe, guys, that this portal window was going to be some kind of just like groundbreaking, earth-shattering college football moment. That's left for December. Like I said, like you got to get these guys in, and you poach during the season. You don't poach during the spring when you can't go even poach your own conference's rosters, which most of the elite programs are trying to do some interconference transferring, trying to get trying to get the better players off of the good teams in their current conference.
Yeah, I think the initial thought that this might be a busy portal window is just because the speculation that teams' checks might bounce, where, you know, like we saw with the Caden Proctor thing where he goes to Iowa and then not even a month later he's back. He's going to enter the portal again and goes back to Alabama. So maybe stuff like that made some people kind of hopeful, like, hey, you know, this might not be the only place this is happening, but it just never came to fruition, it seems. And the portal's still open, so who knows, some crazy shit could be happening. But I feel like the guys that were going to enter have already entered by now.
I would imagine there's still some laboring going on right now, right? I think there's still some poaching conversations being done, right? I think nowadays kids have understood that entering the portal is kind of the last thing you do in this process. The first process is making sure you got a home to pay you and give you a raise before you enter the portal and kind of torch your current residence, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, too, like spring portal window feels more like this is a situation where I have to go. Like, this is my last option. I feel like it is this is my only option. Like, if I want playing time, like, then I have to go. Whereas, like, the winter portal, when that opens up, like, there's so much more at play. I mean, you still have an entire spring to where, like, even if you're a 2 or 3 on a depth chart and you want to go earn a starting spot, you still got the all of spring with your new program to go and earn that. Whereas now you're going in there, you're going for summer workouts, and you have fall, and you have like those 2 or 3 months leading up into the schedule to where you can feel like you can earn those reps. So there's just limited opportunity already, not only with the conferences saying that you have to set out a whole year, but also just availability of playing time and reps.
Here's the conversation I want to have, and it's kind of out there. Okay, it's tinfoil hat theory time. Okay, but we have talked about donor fatigue on this channel. It's across the sport. Every single donor and every single booster across college football right now is like, for the love of God, stop asking for money. For the love of God, I gave you money last month. For the love of God, how are you spending it so fast, right? There is donor fatigue all across the country except for Oregon and whenever John Ruiz is not under federal investigation down there in Miami. Other than those 2 programs, everybody else is kind of cash stricken. So let me ask you this, guys. There is no collective bargaining going on right now for players. We all know that. In fact, I don't even know if there will ever be an effective collective bargaining for all 8,000 Division I athletes playing college football, however many it is. So I think that's a little outrageous to ever believe. However, there are like 12, maybe 15 Power 4 football teams that kind of control player acquisition during this time of the year. It's the big spenders. It's the big, rosters that are out here trying to get better at all times. It's really the 12 to 15 teams that believe they're national champions or have an ability to do so. Now, what would stop those 12 to 15 teams who, by the way, reside in like 2 conferences, right? The SEC and the Big Ten. What would stop those teams from calling around, doing a little game of telephone, saying, "Hey, we're all experiencing donor fatigue. Let's not go out crazy this spring. Let's hang out and save our money for the fall." You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's outrageous to believe that 12 of the biggest power heads in the sport might get together and be like, "Hey, let's just take it easy this round, okay? My boosters are about to shoot me."
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I think the thing that would be stopping that would just be, do you trust every other program? Be like, yeah, we're not going to spend the money. And then next thing you know, they're going out and spending money. Goes, oh, shit, the rest of these teams, they don't have the money. They just told us we can go out and get whoever we want now. So, I mean, it's always that tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff I think that you'd have to deal with. But no, I think you are right. I think that college football as a collective is kind of tired of just having to shell out money left and right to not only get players, but to keep players on their roster. So I think that, like you said, donor fatigue has set in, and it's kind of affected the way that the transfer portal is being utilized right now.
Now, the headline on that Barstool article I sent to you guys today about $36 million, whatever, that's misleading, I think, because it includes the coach's salaries. So you can knock off $17 million right off the top, basically, because Day's making close to 10. And then the rest of the staff probably mounts up around
Chip
7.
Kelly,
So, I mean, Chip Kelly's probably making close to 3. I would imagine, maybe like 2.5. So, I think that was a little bit misleading, but you would assume their roster values of north of $20 million at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it was at 13 in 2022. It's been 2 years since then, and he's added a plethora of talent. And by the way, retained some, like we told you last night, with some NFL caliber football players that came back for their 4th and final year in college football. Hey, welcome into tonight's show. We do have a great one for you. It's only going to be an hour tonight. Normally we stream 2 hours. There's a reason being. We're going to give you 30 minutes of national talk right here to kick off the show, 30 minutes of local talk to close the show. As soon as the cameras go off here during this live hour, we're going to hop up in front of the board and record the second half of our our film observations. Okay, so we did 90 minutes of film from GDay. It's up on the channel. You can already watch it right now. If you haven't, go do it. Don't do that right now. Do it on your spare time. Also, I know 90 minutes is a lot. Probably another 90 minutes coming to you. So it's about 3 hours worth of film observations. I knew it was going to be that long. Guess what? You got till damn August to watch it. So go ahead, watch it over and over again if you want to. Rack up those views over there. It's a really, really good film study. We got a whole nother half coming tonight. So make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribing, rate, review, and all that good stuff. We're going to talk about the best players available in the transfer portal now, even though it is relatively barren. Still think it's worth bringing you some names tonight. We're also going to talk about one of the craziest, and I'm going to say whack, one of the wackest top 100 lists I've ever seen covering college football. Huh?
It's whack.
Straight whack. All right, we're going to bring you that. Speaking of whack, Drew Aller had some just some atrocious highlights from his spring debut this, last weekend, right?
Yeah.
And then a fun segment to round out our national hour. Who's the most likable college football program in the sport right now? Hey, want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. If you have not already, head over to Prize Picks today. Use promo code Brooks. You get a 100% deposit match. What does that mean? You put up to $100, you'll instantly get matched with a hundo right there in your account. So yeah, head over there. It is Taco Tuesday over there right now, so I'm sure there's some good deals to be had. PrizePicks.com, promo code Brooks. All right. So I got a list of names of the quote-unquote best players in the transfer portal. A transfer portal we were told by some was going to be groundbreaking, earth-shattering in the sport. So here we go. Keandre Lambert-Smith, the number one wide receiver from Penn State, in the portal. You'll find out why pretty soon when we talk about his quarterback, Drew Aller. Cormani McClain entered the portal today. Elijah Herring, Jacoby Matthews, Carmelo English, and Damian Martinez. I kind of want to rattle through a bunch of these right quick. Starting with Cormani McClain. You'll do it. I know you will. You'll Google him. You'll look at his recruiting profiles. You'll see he was a top 100 player on On3. You'll see he was a top 32 player at 24/7 Sports. You'll see he was a 5-star, pretty much consensus across the rankings. And then if you click the news articles right next to the 24/7 kind of profile, if you look at the news articles, you will find nothing but Deion Sanders talking about how this kid does not want to play football, okay, and not want to do right things. You will find nothing but those articles for the last 16 months since he's been at Colorado, okay? This was a Miami potential. This was a Florida potential. This was a Colorado potential. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Who's going to be? Last day of National Signing Day, ends up signing with Colorado, and it just never worked. Not once, boys.
No, it hasn't. I remember at the very beginning of the season, it's kind of felt like where it started rising to the national surface of Cormani McClain, and it not really working out with Colorado. And that was at the very beginning of the season. I mean,
very early on,
when Colorado was running hot. I mean, there was nothing but good news coming out of that camp. I mean, nobody had anything but good things to say about Colorado and Deion, except for Cormani McClain.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to say, it was everything. It was, we can't get him to meetings. We can't get him to put on weight. We can't get him to show up and practice the right way. We just can't get him to pay attention. We can't get him to care about football. We can't. He'd come back to practice. We got Cormani out there today. It was great. Cormani, I mean, it sounds like he's still uber talented, but if talent alone can't get you on the field at a talent-based organization like Colorado, then I have a very hard time believing you're going to be out here fetching a price in the transfer portal market. The chat today was talking about, where's he going to go next? Can we afford him? Mike, first of all, I don't know if Georgia's ever going to be interested in this one. Second of all, I don't know if Cormani McClain's out here got leverage right now. He's not going to be out here leveraging programs for money, right?
No, I mean, you might be able to just based on, you'd obviously have to go somewhere smaller than Colorado to do that, just because you are, the name you have in your recruiting profile would say otherwise, just because, you might not have had put tape on the field or something like that, and your coach is talking out against you. But I think you can leverage smaller schools, but then again, how hard can you leverage a smaller school that has a smaller budget?
I don't want to speak bad on the player, but I would just say that if you go to a place like Colorado where Deion Sanders is your coach and you want to play defensive back and you want to be this all-world talent, and Deion Sanders can't get you to show up to practice and you aren't motivated to go be developed by him every day, I don't know that you're going to find that anywhere else. I mean, that's like the perfect place that you wanted to be, obviously. Like
that's a great point. If Dion can't get you to play hard and care about it, like who will?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I feel bad doing the, quote unquote crapping on the kid or speaking down on the kid, but his head coach did it for 10 months. His head coach stood in front of microphones every time he was asked about this really talented young player and saying, well, basically, Cormani will play when Cormani wants to do the right thing. That's a program that doesn't care if you're live streaming on Twitter. That's a program that doesn't care if you're, dicking around at practice or if you have documentary teams following you around. That team is all about the distraction. But if you just don't care about football, then there's a line eventually driven there. Keandre Lambert-Smith, will you get me some stats on him from Penn State last year? I didn't watch Penn State outside of the 2 games that meant to shit last year in the Big Ten, and they looked so daggum anemic passing the football that I couldn't tell you if they had a good wide receiver or not. But I'm told that this Lambert-Smith guy is really, really good.
Last season, he had 53 receptions for 673 yards and 4 touchdowns.
So he was their primary option and had 600 and some odd yards on 52 receptions. That's what, like 12 and a half a catch?
12.7.
Right? Not bad on the quick math.
You and Goody, huh?
Yeah,
you guys got it like that, huh?
I got those math brains, dude.
So yeah, not a terrible option right there. Sounds to be one of the better players available right now. Tennessee had a quote-unquote starter hit the portal in Elijah Herring. This one's interesting for twofold on my opinion, right? One, he's got a younger brother, Caleb Herring, that was a 4-star like edge rusher, like super talented football player. Wonder what's happening there on the roster with him and what's going to happen with him. Is he going to enter the portal? Or is he going to stick it out at Tennessee? If he sticks it out at Tennessee, that would tell me there was no harshness in the exit of Elijah. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And here's why I think there was no harshness. And I think sometimes you rush and you see, leading tackler on the football team. Leading tackler on the football team enters the portal. Dang, what's going on at Tennessee? Well, Jacob Thielander was a hit, or Jeremiah Thielander was a hit for them last year coming out of high school, out of Gainesville, right up the road right here. Goes up there as a true freshman. I think played like 8 or 9 games last year and was earning real playing time towards the end of the year. So is this great player entering the portal, but he's not probably seeking a raise right now, right? Where can he go? He can't go in the SEC.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal point. I mean, I think he was the leading
Ohio State strapped at linebacker right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe if you want to go play for like an Arizona or something like that. I mean, that'd be my question. But wasn't he the leading tackler for them last year on defense? I think that's the stat I saw. So I mean, don't want to do the whole like box score watching going into the portal type thing, but it is interesting nonetheless because that is a good point of like certainly you can't be just going in there for money. I mean. I don't know. That's an interesting thing about the spring portal.
Again, watching little bro, watching what little bro does will tell me whether or not they have disdain for that coaching staff. I mean, they're both defensive players too. I mean, one's an edge rusher and the other one's a Mike linebacker. But if the little bro sticks around, that sounds like older brother left with no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Because you would imagine they're represented by the same person.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jacoby Matthews was a 5-star coming out of high school. Went to Texas A&M. Sounds like Oregon or Florida State is what that one sounds like.
Sounds right, yeah.
One of the schools that you mentioned still has money to do it.
Yep, Florida State's budget is still pretty well intact.
Yeah.
So that's good news for them. Carmelo English, believes a safety from LSU is what I saw. And then Damian Martinez, the running back from Oregon State. But he was the primary running back last year. I was thinking of the little slot that they had that ended up at, I believe, Louisville, maybe Michigan State.
I can't remember.
Oregon State had a bunch of good football players depart. So how about some potential landing spots here? Do we have any ideas at all other than Jacoby Matthews? Sounds like
the best
Oregon
guess you can make is just teams with the thickest pockets right now who are willing to go out and have positional needs at that. Like, I can't imagine certain teams are going to be saying, oh, there's a running back in the portal right now, we can go get him. I feel like most teams have figured out, okay, we've got our running back 1 and 2 right now, we can go find him. So I guess just teams that are either going to desperately need depth at that position or have deeper pockets. I don't know if there's this guy's a perfect fit for Team X.
Well, Damian Martinez already has his visits set up. He's visiting Arizona, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Miami.
I'd go to Tennessee.
Phenomenal run game. That's a good place. Good place to be.
Run game. Now, I believe they have a returning back. Obviously, Jalen Wright left, but they have, I want to say somebody with the last name Small. Will you look that up?
Jabari Small?
Jabari Small.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so good football player there and a tremendous system. I think a lot of times that gets mislabeled as an air raid chunking around offense. They run the piss out the football.
Oh, no, it's not Jabari. It's Dylan Sampson.
Okay. Either way, had a decent year last year, if I remember correctly. All right, CBS Sports. Now, should we torch the author?
I don't know, because these lists are hard. I mean, you think about it.
These lists are hard.
I mean, if I sat here and told you, like, Christian, I want you to write an article and I want you to rank the top 100 players in college football.
I would have a hard time doing
There's going to be misses somewhere. Like, you're going to forget somebody. Like, you're going to get your top 50.
Dude, I can't even do the Georgia depth chart without forgetting the name.
Yeah, so it's a very tough task. I don't want to, like, drill the author so much, but it's a big talking point nonetheless.
All right, so no author name, but he did rank the top 100 players in college football. You can find this on CBSSports.com. And I have, like, 11 bullet points that I have wrong with this list. So I'm going to start with number one. Literally. Travis Hunter was his number one ranked player. I get it. Travis is the only player in college football right now playing both ways. It makes it easy to put him one. It's just too rich for my blood. I don't think he's the best player in college football.
He wouldn't be the best safety or corner in college football. He wouldn't be the best wide receiver if he was specializing in one of those positions. The fact that he can play two positions, that's great. There's probably 50 players in college football that could play two positions if they were allowed to.
There's not 50 players in college football that could do it in Fort Worth, Texas in the summer like he did last year.
I was about to say,
he took 128 snaps in 105-degree weather. That was insanity.
I think you could say that Travis Hunter is the most valuable college football player right now just because he can play both positions at the level that he does. Like, he's going to be one of the better wide receivers and one of the better defensive backs in college football both ways. So there's a whole lot of value. And so if that's the angle that you're taking it from, then I don't hate it as much, but I agree. I think number one is a little too rich.
What are some other takeaways before I just steal them all? Because I went down the list.
Let me get this pulled up.
I don't think Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football.
Yeah, he was ranked four. The number one quarterback.
Highest
four
quarterback.
Overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's rich for my blood as well.
Shedeur at 4, and then also Jalen Milroe at 7. Those are your top two quarterbacks?
Yeah, Jalen Milroe above Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Well, one spot, but granted, a little bit wild to me. I know he beat him head-to-head, but, you know.
It's funny, too, because in the article it says, don't be surprised this year if Carson Beck wins the Heisman.
Love that. Love that little contradictory analysis right there between those two teams, or two spots. But, yeah, Milroe above Beck was a little bit questionable to me. James Pierce at 2. I understand the James Pierce hype. I really do. He's probably on paper and on film right now, if you just look at the highlights, probably the best edge rusher, like true edge rusher in college football. He's going to have north of 10 sacks this year. I would imagine he's going to be a first-round draft pick. I just don't know if he's the second best player in college football, particularly on early downs. Like, Georgia fans probably hear James Pierce's name and like, wait a minute, Tennessee's got a great edge rusher, because teams that could establish the run kind of eliminated him from, you know, changing football games. But he did have times last year where he was virtually unblockable. So I understand the hype, and he will be drafted like this.
I kind of had an issue with Zachariah Branch being at 34th.
Too low for you?
Just a little too low for me. Yeah. I think he's top 25. I think you could put him in that range. Like, especially if you're like Isaiah Bonds in the top 25, Luther Burden respectively is in the top 25 for good reason. Like Trey Harris, I'm probably taking Zachariah Branch over Trey Harris, just because, like, I think you can get a little bit more out of Zachariah Branch than you can Trey Harris. Like, Trey Harris is phenomenal. He's going to put up numbers for Ole Miss in that offense because they are so explosive, and because Lane Kiffin's going to put him in the right spots, and they got Jackson Dart who can get the ball to him effectively. But I think he was just a little too low for me. I would put him a little higher.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't want to be too picky with, like, after 25, just because, like you said, it's very hard.
It is hard.
And you start splitting hairs at that point. So that was kind of my thing. I think it's egregious, though, that Caleb Downs and Malachi Starks aren't within the top 15. At the very least, within the top 15.
Nuts. Yeah, I mean,
like, you don't want to put them in top 10. Fine, they're DBs. They don't have as much of an effect as a quarterback or a star wide receiver would. They are two of the top 15 best players in college.
You made a great point in pre-show about it. Like, you get into 18 and 19, you're like, shit, I forgot Malachi Starks and Caleb
That's
Downs.
exactly how it read.
Just put them right here. Boom, boom.
Both together. That way there's not much an argument of like, oh, I didn't say Malachi Starks is that much better. I didn't say Caleb Downs is that much better. But definitely like, ooh, hold on. Got to make sure I get these guys in the top 20.
Now I got some goofy ones coming up, right? Like, I understand the Perkins evaluation over there at LSU. I know he's a really good football player, but he's listed as an edge rusher on this list, and he's listed at 16. Okay, first of all, he's not a top 20 player in college football right now. He hasn't played like that the last 2 years.
No.
His freshman year, he played like that. Mm-hmm. His sophomore year, he did not. And the reason being, person who wrote this article, he's moved to off-ball linebacker. He plays linebacker first and second down, and then they might situationally pass rush him occasionally, but he's a first and second down inside linebacker. And to be quite frank, he's not one of the best in the SEC on first and second down as a true inside linebacker. In fact, I would say Whit Weeks on his own roster probably plays the run a little bit better than he does right now on first and second down. So there is some growth for Harold Perkins. Him at 16 was way too high for me. Also, he's got Jack Sawyer ranked 38th overall and must have thought JT Tuimoloau is in the league right now because he doesn't have JT Tuimoloau in the top 100. Tuimoloau started over Jake Sawyer last year and years prior. So, like, what are you doing there? That's a miss. Any more?
I'm good.
Shamar Stewart at 60 was straight up goofy. Shamar Stewart is one of the best edge rushers in the sport. He's going to be first round draft pick. Going to be a top 20 eval this year. He's 6'6", 270 pounds, and he moves like an avatar. He's not the 60th best player in the country. By the way, Michael Williams at 73, stop watching football. Crazy. He's a top 20 player in the sport. Crazy. Ricky White at 89, way too low. Dude had almost 1,300 yards last year at UNLV. He's back. He's going to have another 1,300 yards this year. Seth McLaughlin.
He did it.
They sent his ass packing in Tuscaloosa. He makes it on the list. 92.
Cam Rising at 49th. That one was like nailing coffin for me. Like, bro, come on.
You know what? I was about to at this man on Twitter and flame his ass until I found out he's part of the anti-Will Howard deep state. Will Howard didn't make the top 100. This guy saved his own ass by keeping Will Howard off this list. Because you know what? Anti-Will Howard deep state, stamp of approval. I'm fine with it.
So much so that Cam Rising's listed as a top 50 player on this list. I'm trying. Brady Cook is right behind him. I think most people right now would take Brady Cook over Cam Rising again, like right there with one another. So, but made some great points. I love the passion.
I said I wasn't going to get hyped tonight. Said I was going to take it easy on the voice. We got another 90 minutes after this of just me talking. Pollen's killing you, boy. Everything's fighting against me right now. But it's all good. You know, we're fighting against the ops. Right. Trying to be the more likable version of myself. Speaking of likable, who's the most likable college football program in the sport right now?
All right, so I made a criteria for this. That I did 5 things. So if you want to be a likable team in college football, number 1, you usually got to be an underdog. People get tired of cheering for teams that win. Alabama's, Georgia's, Ohio State's. No one likes those teams. Number 2, you have to be a team that's fun to watch. Army, we love you, support the troops, but I don't want to watch 32 belly 45 times a game. Like I just can't do that. Number 3, you have to be a team that has a likable or at least entertaining head coach. Someone that you can watch and not be like, oh my God, I hate this guy. Why is he on TV right now? Number 4 is, or that was number 4. Number 5 is a team that has a passionate but not a toxic or annoying fan base. Like they can't be constantly chirping on Twitter. They can make memes and stuff like that, but it has to be in good faith almost. So with that, do you want me to tell you the 2 teams I came up with?
Yeah, let's go.
So the 2 teams I came up with that are the most likable in college football are the Kansas Jayhawks and the TCU Horned Frogs.
Okay.
I think that those are 2 teams that anytime they're on or playing in Ohio State or in Alabama or Georgia, it's like, hey, they might win it. Like the years that Kansas gave Oklahoma a run for their money, like
Texas.
And Texas, things such as that. It's always fun to watch, and they never succeed to a point where you're like, all right, I'm so tired of hearing about these teams. So I feel like those are the 2 most likable, and their jerseys are good to look at.
Chat makes a good suggestion. RIP, but any Mike Leach coach team is nationally loved. Except for that one time he locked a kid in a locker in Texas Tech, but we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah, that was old news.
It was a little old news, but kind of weird.
I had to make some exceptions for mine because I think this is going to be one of the most likable teams in 2024, and I need people to erase some memories. Okay, I need everybody to clear the memory, clear the mind for this one, and just open up and see what you think. So I put UCF. And you got to forget about the Mickey Mouse national title. You can't think back to any of that stuff. I know the fan base riled up some people, and deservingly so. Like, that was very annoying. I think everybody can agree that nobody wanted to recognize that except for UCF. But I think Gus Malzahn, that's a good college football character, especially in the position that he is. They're going to be underdogs in the Big 12.
Yeah.
They're not one of these tier 1 teams in that conference. They're always going to be little brother to a lot of people because they just in their second year of that conference. And also, KJ Jefferson's there. I mean, that just makes me feel like it's going to be one of those teams that you're going to turn the TV on. It's going to be fun to watch. You're probably going to find yourself rooting for them because you want them to knock off one of the upper teams in the Big 12. And I think it's just going to be a good time to watch the Golden Knights this year.
I got one for you. How about Duke? Now, I know Duke's basketball fan base gets a lot of shit, and Duke's basketball program everybody hates. But for some reason, every time Duke is on the field, people just want to root for him. Like, I mean, this started with me in the old Johnny Manziel Chick-fil-A Bowl against Duke. Duke's like fighting and scrapping, and people are like, whoa, it's a good Duke football team. Cutcliffe's got a run there for a little while, and then Elko picks it up. I mean, yeah, they were getting A&M in that football game. I think Duke, for some reason, people look past the I hate their basketball program, and they find themselves rooting for Duke. Now, this is a very recency bias football team because, and it plays into my next one, they had a game against Clemson this year where the whole national audience is like, hell yes, Duke. And then they also played Notre Dame, which brings me to my second caliber. Any team playing Notre Dame is America's favorite team. Any team playing Notre Dame is very likable because Notre Dame is so anti-likable. So those are my two suggestions. Duke and whoever is playing Notre Dame today, the whole nation is behind.
I would push back on the Notre Dame thing just because when Ohio State played Notre Dame last year, people were cheering for Notre Dame more than Ohio State.
Really?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, the upset
people do hate Ohio State.
I think Ohio State might be the most hated team in all of college football.
They're definitely one of the most hated teams.
Chad's got a couple good ones. Utah, Oregon State. I think Oregon's extremely likable. I don't find anybody that's got disdain for Oregon.
No, for sure.
Now, you let them win a couple titles and that'll feel differently.
Oregon, I think people got very tired of Oregon in the early 2010s when they were playing nobodies and scoring 70 points.
No, I think you're confusing people don't believe in you and people hate you. People didn't believe in those Oregon teams.
think it was just because like my generation, there were so many bandwagon fans that loved Oregon because the Nike Elites and all that shit, like neon clothes every day. It's like, oh, I love Oregon. It's like, no, you don't.
212 uniform combinations.
Yeah.
I think App State's a good shout out. Like, anytime the Mountaineers are playing an upper tier program, everybody's like, oh, the Mountaineers are going to pull it off again.
They're going to give them a sweat.
They're going to get them. I mean, last year was UNC. They gave a sweat. And they're just, and also like they were in the top 25 at one point last year. Even got College Game Day to show up. Like, it's a good time.
All right, let's move into our local hour. No need to play the intro. We'll just keep it right here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, okay? If you missed any portion of tonight's broadcast, we are made available. However, wherever you catch out your podcast, just search the Film Guy Network. Will pop up. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please feel free to do so. Let's move into this local hour. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Here's what we got for you. We're going to give awards away for spring practice. We have 3 primary takeaways from GDay. The boys haven't been able to talk GDay, so we're going to do that a little bit tonight. Questions that you still have about this football team and football program, and we're going to open with the portal news. Obviously, there has been 3 Georgia football players to hit the portal. One was a walk-on, Braxton Hicks. Very unfortunate naming of Braxton Hicks.
Yeah.
Anyways, Braxton Hicks hit the transfer portal, and then Tyler Williams hit the transfer portal, and Andrew Paul has hit the transfer portal. Let's start with Andrew Paul. Guys, very deep room. Went from a room where looks like Roger Robinson and Cash Jones are going to have to start for us to start the football season in 2023 to, damn, we got like 7 of you jokers we're willing to play by the fall of 2024. Totally different roster construction in that room, okay? Got a lot of new faces coming in as well. Trevor Etienne, Chauncey Bowens, Dwight Phillips, Nate Frazier. Dwight Phillips you can kind of remove from this conversation. He's going to kind of play everywhere and not really play anywhere. You know what I mean? He's going to be all over the field, not really confined to one room. So there's that. But Andrew Paul had a very interesting time at the University of Georgia. When he first got on campus, the intel was like, bro, if this kid can figure out how to hold on to the football and stop fumbling, he is a problem. All right, he is already making plays. And then, boom, blew out his knee. It's like, all right, well, we got to take 12 months to figure out the knee. So last year, all the way up until the season, it's like Andrew's still not quite himself yet. Midway through the season, all right, Andrew Paul starting to become himself again. And then this spring, it's like, hey, new guy just came in. Freshman's here as well. Roderick Robinson's been playing for the last 12 months and getting all the reps while you've been on the shelf. Good luck. You know what I mean? Like, good luck surviving and finding carries. This is just one of those situations where, yeah, if you're Georgia, you would have liked to have Andrew Paul on your roster come November, right? It would have been great for you to have this quality of a depth at RB4, which is where he was. If you listened to Kirby in postgame when he was asked about Andrew Paul, he put him behind Cash Jones. He put him behind Cash Jones on the depth chart, which means right now it's going Etienne, it's going Roger Robinson, it's going Cash Jones, and then it's going Andrew Paul. Yeah, buddy, I'd probably go see if I got playing time elsewhere as well. So, boys, I don't know how y'all felt, but when it comes to Paul going to the portal, this is a good decision for him from a career standpoint.
Yeah, when Georgia brought Etienne on, you kind of felt like they're not going to be able to keep everyone in this room, especially when Branson Robinson gets healthy again. Like, there's just too many backs right now, and there's too many backs that are deeper into their careers. Like, Andrew Paul's a junior now, a redshirt junior?
Redshirt
sophomore. So he's going into his third year of eligibility, or his third year. So it's like, he doesn't have like, oh, I'm a freshman, I can wait another 2 years for these guys ahead of me to go ahead and go. Like, he wants to play now, so it makes sense to me.
And, oh, by the way, they hadn't even seen Nate Frazier yet. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of feel it even during GDay of like when they were getting the running back some reps, like you'd get some ETN, but with Andrew Paul, I was like, I still want to see more. And you still just couldn't find more reps to get from him. So it made complete sense when it was announced.
And this also kind of goes back to, I don't know if we talked about it, but Kirby and this staff coached this spring with no thoughts of the portal. Because why else would you be? I mean, everyone on the outside looking in kind of circled Andrew Paul's name as a potential portal entrant just before the spring started. Like, we kind of knew, hey, this might be a problem area with how deep this room is. They might have some attrition here. And his was the name you kind of circled. They gave that dude a bunch of run on Saturday. He honestly, you could make the case Trevor Etienne looked the best out of the running back room, but you could very easily make the case that dude was the second best looking back on Saturday. Yeah. He had two really big flash runs, and they allowed him to put that on tape, knowing very good and well that this could have been the outcome come Sunday when he hit the portal.
I mean, I think I asked the question before GDay. I was like, who's going to be the guy that shows out on Saturday and then you're going to come on Sunday and he's in the portal now? I mean, it feels like it happens every single year. You put some good stuff on film and then you hit the portal, and it's good for them.
The antithesis of this would be Tyler Williams. Yeah. Tyler Williams got no burn Saturday, right? Zero.
I don't remember seeing him.
I don't either. And you would have noticed. I don't remember seeing him at all. And Tyler Williams was supposed to be one of the next, like Georgia might have an X. Like, that was the type of eval coming out of high school. They thought this kid out of Lakeland was going to be really, really, really talented. And we heard, at least I did, I heard very early on with Tyler Williams that this isn't what we thought it was. You know what I mean? Not saying he's a bad football player, but when it's like within a month or two of him being on campus, the intel was, okay, maybe this isn't the 50-50 ball winner we thought we were going to get. Maybe this isn't the top end speed guy that we thought we were going to get. Maybe this isn't the guy who's willing to like put his neck on the line in special teams, like required to play here, type of guy that we thought we were going to get. So it sounded very early on that they kind of knew what this was. And also, you could see, by the way, the last two cycles, they've attacked replacements at this position. They went out and got Ra Thomas. They went out and got Colby Young, right? Two big-bodied, 6'3" plus human beings, over 200 pounds. They could play the X. That's exactly what Tyler Williams was supposed to be. So you could see them identifying, not necessarily the miss, but identifying that Tyler wasn't ready to play via their actions in the portal.
I think too, like for me at least, wide receiver is one of those positions where you don't necessarily have to play your first year, but by the time you get on campus, there should be some rumblings of like you doing some things in practice, like some positive news.
In shorts and t-shirt, there was. As soon as the pads came on, it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I think wide receivers is kind of easy to tell early on once they get there of like, he's making plays. Like, we just maybe have to refine some things. And again, that doesn't mean that they have to play their true freshman year. They don't have to look amazing or anything like that. But I feel like you can kind of tell early on at that position whether you got something special or whether maybe you don't.
Yo, Bulk Baloo is a wild shot.
Damn, they're still doing it.
Wild, bro. Shout out to Marion Campbell on that one. Bulk Baloo. That's crazy. Bulkaloo. Woof. Yeah, so the Braxton Hicks one, I hope there's a mid-major team he can go play for.
Yeah.
I hope Braxton Hicks already knows where he's going. Because granted, it's a spring window. It's not super deep right now, but I don't think spots are super deep around the country either. So I hope there's a landing spot for a guy like Braxton Hicks. I'm sure there is. Again, if you're a walk-on type player and you're hitting the portal, buddy, you better have a place to land. You better, because like most of these guys that are hitting the portal right now are guys that lost jobs at Power 5 schools that were on scholarship. I mean, there's 10 examples of that out of Colorado right now. Mm-hmm. Those are 10 Power 5 football players that just hit the portal that if any of them are receivers, you're now having to compete with to land at Middle Tennessee. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's getting deep. Ryland told us last night there were 5,000 people in there. 5,000 people, and there were 1,300 spots available. That was in December. I don't know how many spots there are available right now. I really don't around college football. So I hope you got to land a spot somewhere in the near future. Mm-hmm. If not, pick up the phone. We'll try to help you. Seriously, dead ass. I hate when kids can't find homes. Yeah. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but I'll try anything I can to help kids out. Calling whoever I can with regards to coaches. Do you got spots? Do you got room? I got this. Okay. Anyways, should we do awards?
I'd love to.
Let's do awards. Spring practice and spring game has wrapped up. So we're going to do this multitude of ways. So you can give me your award based off just GDay alone, or you can give me your award off of spring practice entirely. I'm going to do a little bit of both. For my MVP, the most valuable player of the spring and spring game, I'm going to go Dom Lovett. Mm-hmm. Watching the tape, back and doing the film evaluations, I was blown away by both his ability to win, like get open, obviously, but really his runs after the catch were like the sign for me. Because we talked about it last night. The difference between Dom Lovett at Missouri and the difference between Dom Lovett at Georgia was not rep share. He had one fewer reception and 240 fewer yards. The difference for me when I watched him at Missouri and watched him at Georgia last year was the run after the catch. What were you doing with the ball in your hands afterwards? Saturday, I saw a very, very different Dom Lovett after the catch.
I like that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was noticeable that it was like, whoa, that's not the Dom Lovett from last year.
Not only making people miss, but a bitch to tackle. Yeah. Like, he was carrying people on Saturday.
Well, there's a few times because, I was sitting up high in the stands. I was like, who the heck is that they're trying to tackle? Then I was waiting for the PA announcer to announce, like, damn, Dom Lovett.
It's 5'11", 185-pound Dom Lovett. That's who it was.
Beautiful. For my MVP, I went based off of GDay or a little bit of GDay, a little bit of spring practice, but mostly GDay. And you can call it an overreaction if you want, but I'm going to go Colby Young because I think if that's what you're getting from Colby Young throughout the entire year, and Kirby Smart's mentioned special teams, like if he's having that big of an impact and he's going to have that type of impact throughout the entire year, I mean, it's been the missing piece of Georgia's offense for the last 4 years now. And I think if you can get that missing piece along with Dom Lovett being what he is and Oscar Dell being the tight end that he's going to be, like, it's going to take the offense to another level. Every
time I think about Georgia potentially having an elite X, I recall the conversation that Todd Monken had about when you have an X receiver. When you have an elite X receiver, he talked about how simplistic it makes offenses because you can basically live in 3-by-1, dictate coverage, right? The safety now has to roll over the top of that primary X because they're going to bracket coverage that guy. Well, now we got all these other options on 3/4 of the field that you guys aren't worried about. Also, it makes offense really simplistic on third and mediums, third and shorts, because now we know we got a guy that we can back shoulder, or now we know we got a guy that's going to win on a slant, or now we know in the red zone we got a winner. It makes offense way, way easier when you have an elite X. So I'm with you on the opportunity for that to be the most valuable answer coming out of this spring. What do you got for us, Kirk?
So I went mine based on spring and the spring game alone. I think what Dalen Everett did for your roster as a whole this year is more valuable than any other player because his ability to take reps at the star position and allow other corners to kind of get some run, I think saved you from seeing potentially a portal entry at that position. I mean, I know earlier in the offseason they were worried about losing some guys at that position, and I think Dalen Everett not only showing you that he can play star and playing it well on Saturday and he played corner on Saturday mostly, but playing corner well on Saturday, and the fact that he can play star if he needs to, from what we've heard in spring practice, save you some transfer portal entries.
You're going to see it more in the film study that we got coming up in the second half, but I thought Dalen Everett had one of the better days of anybody out there. I thought the three guys that stood out just off the top of my head, Dominic Lovett, Dalen Everett, and CJ Allen. I thought those three guys had a great day. KJ Bolden maybe a close fourth in terms of like, holy shit, Jake Pope a fifth, where it's like, my God, those guys had great days today. So I'm with you there in terms of, I mean, you're right. The positional versatility has provided an opportunity for Kirby to walk into Daniel Harris's house or apartment, or walk into Julian Humphrey's house and say, look, man, on coverage downs, both of you are going to be out there because we need Dalen and Star, or whatever it might be. Definitely opens up some opportunities for more playing time. Let's go offensive player of the spring. I honorable mention here, put Trevor Etienne. And then the offensive player of the spring for me, despite it's hard to say lackluster. It just didn't look like what we'd heard it was going to look like based off spring intel. But Rod Robinson, okay, he didn't have a great spring game. I think he had about 2.6 yards per carry or something along those lines. But we saw the inability to tackle that human, okay, and that's what we had heard about all spring. And just the spring as a whole, he had a really good set of practices based off everything we heard.
I actually had Roderick Robinson too, but I'll flip it on you and I'll go Micah Morris because of what I mean. That one clip sticks in my mind specifically, but I mean there was a moment in time with Micah Morris where it was like there still feels like there's just something missing. Like we're not getting Micah Morris that we know that is there and how special he can be. It feels like we got that Saturday. Like we got a true glimpse of how special Micah Morris can be, and also some versatility that I didn't really know was there. So based on what I saw from GDay, I loved what I saw from Micah Morris, and that was an offensive player of the game for me.
Yeah, for a lot of the same reasons you went him as MVP, I went Colby Young as the offensive player of the spring. I think his addition to the wide receiver room is huge, and I think that he showed you on Saturday that he is kind of what we anticipate him to be. He's a very, very good 50-50 ball guy. He got a lot of routes over the middle, so I think that adding Colby Young to that X position is going to make a big difference on that offense this year.
All good answers right there. All right, defensive player of the spring. Honorable mention, I went Jake Pope. And then for the actual winner of the award, I think it's nice and easy. I went CJ Allen.
That is a nice and easy one. That's going to be really freaking good. I went Gabe Harris because if what we saw Saturday, if we get that Gabe Harris.
I want to show this picture. Keep talking about Gabe Harris, but I want to show this picture.
If we get the Gabe Harris that we saw on Saturday for the entirety of the season, same way that Colby Young is going to elevate that offense, I mean, that's elevating your defense to another level. I mean, if that's the type of effort that we get from him every single down, that's some special stuff. All
right, so you know how like the dog walk, there's always, it's nothing but smiles, right? Smiles and high fives. I always know like who's here to hunt for souls, because they walk through there like they're about to walk to war. You know what I mean? They got war face on. Gabe Harris is Captain Warface. Look at this. Gabe Harris is out here hunting humans. He is ready to kill. Okay? That is Gabe Harris. By the way, you know who looks just like this? Chaz Chambliss. Okay, so if I told you that Chaz Chambliss just overnight was suddenly 6'5", 240, and was just like overnight a 4.68 runner, and just like overnight was a top 200 eval coming out of high school and like stamped as one, you'd be all freaking over Chaz Chambliss. That's what Gabe Harris is. Gabe Harris hunts. Okay, there was a play in the film study last night where we were just like, Gabe Harris is trying harder than you. The next snap, it was Gabe Harris is just playing too hard for you. And then the next snap, it was like, oh no shit, Gabe Harris is 6'5". Gabe Harris is 240. So Gabe Harris hunts and is ready to kill, and Gabe Harris is gifted and touched by God. Gabe Harris is going to be a great football player, period, point blank. Where are we at?
For mine, I went Michael Williams. I feel like that's kind of the cheap answer, but it's It's so obvious, like the way he changed the game on Saturday, even just what he's been able to do with the jack position, switching that to that role, I think is going to be huge for Georgia this year defensively.
Love it. All right, most improved. I have 2 answers here.
I'll go ahead and go because we've talked about him a lot. Dom Lovett, Dom Lovett, we saw in the spring game, what we've heard about in the practices compared to what we saw last year. Night and day player. Not that Dom Lovett was bad last year,
totally different physicality coming from
exactly. So Dom Lovett's my most improved player.
I love that. Do you have one?
I went with Gunner.
Okay.
I think Gunner's most improved this year. Just because obviously he had the most opportunity this spring than he has any other point in his career at Georgia, because now he got 2 reps and then he also got sprinkled in some 1 reps. I mean, they let the dude sling it on Saturday. They let him play some of the red offense, and then he took basically every single rep on the black offense as well. So he had a lot of opportunity to get better, and I think he capitalized off of that. And I think people walked away from spring this year thinking like, okay, Gunner Stockton feels like a number 2.
So this stock up for me, or this most improved, is a collective unit or a collective signing group, and it's really from the entire offseason since December, and that's the freshman offensive line group. They probably lost a total of 200 pounds as a group. You know, over the 5 of them, I think the 6th, Marcus Harrison, will be here this summer, but of the group of them, they probably lost about 150, 200 pounds. It's almost scared me off of any underweight offensive lineman in high school. If you're coming to Georgia underweight, you'll never gain it. I'm just telling you that right now. They run you too hard. Okay, I think that's across all positions. They have a really, really tough time putting weight on a guy, right? I've never heard them have a problem getting guys underweight except for nose tackles. For some reason, Jordan Davis and Ja is like constant. We got to keep this guy underweight. We got to keep this guy underweight. But everybody else, it's like, shit, we can't keep it on them because they run so much. So that's always worried me. But, you know, they recruit big. Let's get you in. Let's get you smaller. So that hearing from the young guys that they're losing it that quickly is good news. But the other guy that I put on this list is just from GDay, and it's just what I saw, and it's Kristen Miller.
Yeah.
I thought Kristen Miller had a really, I'm not going to say productive day, but a really twitchy and explosive and athletic day. I saw stuff on tape that I was waiting to see, right? I wanted to see you twitch, uncoil, shock, right? Strike. And that's exactly what he did on Saturday. So I was really pleased with 52's both effort and just general juice out on the football field Saturday.
Where are we going? The awards.
That is the awards. Let's go to
questions or takeaways.
Let's do takeaways first, and then questions we still have remaining. I'll be real quick on Ryan Montgomery, okay, because we only got about 7 minutes left here in the local hour. You're on commit alert, I would imagine. You know this by now. Ryan Montgomery was one of 3 guys, really one of 4 guys that they were truly evaluating, or seemed like they were truly evaluating this year at the quarterback position. Zoller's obviously popped to Missouri. They're obviously still looking at Julian Lewis and still pursuing Julian Lewis. And people are going to ask, if they take Ryan Montgomery, does that mean you're done on Julian Lewis? I would say no, you're not done. Okay, you're going to continue to recruit him. Whether or not he entertains, the conversation, that's still something I have to go figure out. So you will recruit him till the end of time, okay? And even when he gets to college, you'll continue that relationship. You won't be tampering, but you will continue that relationship for that purpose, right? I think that's one thing that Georgia's always done really, really well. They don't just recruit you for high school. They recruit you for your college career because they know you very well could be in the portal in 18 months. It's just the nature of this sport. What are you laughing about?
Frying Montgomery.
That was quick. Marion is on top of shit tonight. But yeah, that's kind of what that is. I think you pretty well know that was a situation based off everything that's been going on today on the social medias. 3 takeaways. Let's do it. What do you got?
Want me to go ahead and just rattle them off real quick?
Rattle them off. Give me all 3.
All right. So the first one I have is I'm okay with the way Carson Beck played on Saturday. Obviously, you'd like to see hitting on the deep balls. You wouldn't like to see as many overthrows. But what I saw was a Carson Beck that was okay with every throw that he made. He seemed indecisive at times, but he didn't seem like he lacked any confidence or like, ooh, that's a tight window throw. I can't really try to make that, or that ball's a little too deep for me. I'm not comfortable with that. So I think that's the biggest indicator, and I'm okay with that. It's spring. You're not going to hit all your shots. So I'm fine with the way he played. Next takeaway I had is Gunnar Stockton is a very solid QB2. Like we had the same idea of this last season when we were coming in with Brock Vandagriff of like, hey, if Carson Beck goes down, at least we have a guy that can go in and take it. He might not be as good, might not be as clean, but we have someone who is at least a competent QB2 to where I would feel safe to win 90% of the games that Georgia's in if Gunnar Stockton were QB. And then 3, Dan Jackson's an SEC starter. Like I know that Dan Jackson kind of gets a rep because, his appearance and all that stuff. But the way Dan Jackson played on Saturday and the way Dan Jackson has played, frankly, for the last 2 or 3 seasons, I've seen that, he's got the skill, and he's damn sure doesn't give a shit about his body because he'll throw himself in there. So I feel like Dan Jackson is an SEC starter. Dan
Jackson is going to go to the NFL Combine and run 4.46, and people are going to be like, what? Even though Dan Jackson came to Georgia running 4.48.
Yeah.
Like, he's a really talented football player. Like, he's gifted, by the way, too. But you're right. It's an appearance thing. And it was the fact that he was in 47 for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you're playing safety in 47, and it is what it is. Everyone knows you're a walk-on too, so everyone's doing the whole thing. What I don't think everyone knows is that he was a 4.46 guy. Like, he was a burner coming out of high school, and that's why they took him in the first place. Or that's why they got him to PWO in the first place.
No doubt. You want me to go?
Well, yeah, I'll go last.
Okay. All right. My first one is Jake Pope. Is going to be a bigger contributor than what we probably thought, because when they initially took him, it kind of felt like we need some bodies in that room. Like, didn't get whole lot of run at Alabama, but how could you with the players that they had in that defensive back room, and specifically at safety? And seeing the way that he played on Saturday with a club on his hand, turn me up on that one.
Just
baby.
A football player, dude.
Yeah.
Always in the right spot. When I went and watched him on tape, from Saturday, never looked compromised, never looked like he didn't know what he was doing. He freaked KJ Bolden out on that first play of the game because KJ's like, bro, we're running bracket. And Jake's like, shut up. I'm disguising coverage right now. I'm going to get there. I'm an old head. I'm going to get there. Trust me. So, yeah, I'm with you. Jake Pope seems to be a hit.
Yeah, then piggybacking off of that one, it seems like the transfer portal players in general, like those guys are going to be hits essentially all across the board. I mean, from ETN in the running back room, the wide receivers that you took, McLeod looked really good for the defensive line when he was in at moments. And again, Jake Pope, I think you got a lot of hits, and you needed a lot of hits from that transfer portal class to be some contributors. And my third one, the running back room had the biggest victory of the offseason. I mean, what you did, I classified it as a revamped success story this offseason. That's exactly what you did in the midst of a position coach transition as well. I think that's a huge win for them. Being able to go from what you were at the beginning last season, giving Dylan Bell running back reps last season, to now this year where it's like, dang, we don't have enough reps to give around to these guys. Yeah. You're in a beautiful spot.
That's all three?
That's all three.
All right, so I went kind of counter to you. I think Carson, and what I saw on Saturday, why is the number from Athens calling me right now?
Sounds like that might be something to answer. I don't know.
I'll take over. You might as well just go in the questions we still have, though.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Is honestly, I do still have a question of Carson Beck. Of are we going to get to that point where that deep ball is just tier one, you're going to hit it every single time? Like, again, hit your layups, specifically over the middle of the field. It's a very limited question. I mean, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't get that figured out. He doesn't get it dialed in every single time.
Right.
But like that, it feels like that's the last infinity stone for Carson.
Yeah, that was definitely something I think you wanted answered on Saturday. Like, if he was hitting, I was like, oh my God, he's in mid-season form already. But the fact that you didn't get that, I think, is okay. It's the spring. You've got time to do it. One of my questions is, well, that's not going to get answered till late, maybe not even this season at all, is what did Ryan Puglisi look like? I think the fact that he was injured on Saturday and didn't get to go was really disappointing. Not just because, I mean, obviously, it's going to be what it is on the depth chart this year for him, but I wanted to at least see, like, hey, he had these types of traits and he did this type of thing. So that was a good disappointment for me. Another question I still have, and this is the only one I have, is who is the star? I think they gave Jonell Aguero a lot of reps out there, but I think we all can kind of see that they might want to kind of entertain different options there. But if Jonell Aguero is there, I think it's fine. But, is it Dalen Everett? Is it Ja'Cory Thomas? I think they've still got a lot. I mean, are they going to move Malachi Starks there and let Jake Pope get run at safety? I think there's a lot of options that they have at star, and they haven't finalized one yet. And I didn't expect them to, but that's still a question I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a whole lot of options, absolutely, but you don't have like that convincing answer just yet at star, and that's okay. I mean, we didn't get to see Dalen run at star on Saturday, and that's probably by design. Like, probably not something you want to necessarily show in a spring game. So we may not know the answer because we weren't given the answer. We weren't allowed to see the answer on Saturday. But I think it was important to get Jonell Aguero all of that run on Saturday, get a lot of reps of him, and he has a lot of film to build off of and a lot of evaluation to go from this going into the fall camp. But so I think that is definitely one of the biggest questions remaining.
Sweet. Can you say who it was or no?
No. We'll handle it. It's not a big deal. 3 takeaways. Carson still has room to grow. It's obvious that the middle of the field passing still, like deep ball accuracy still needs to be done. Anything breaking inward still missing. Okay, missed a deep over Saturday, missed a post to Dan Jackson on Saturday. That still has room to grow. Wide receiver room appears to be as advertised. Like we heard a lot of good things, and we saw a lot of good things on Saturday. Defensive line much better, and they're in a much better spot than I thought they were going to be at this point in the year. Okay, thought that looking at spring practice, we were going to be like, hey, where's the difference maker? Watching GDay, they have difference makers, okay, and they got a bunch of them, right? There's some real disruptive humans, and TID will come back onto this roster. You already handled questions?
Yeah, we
okay, I'm going to knock out some of mine. Jared Wilson in the run game looks good. Passing game, there's still some twists and stunts that he was getting hunted for times or at times on Saturday with regards to slants and stunts and different picks and stuff like that. Will Jonell Aguero continue to get better at corner? Okay, or excuse me, at star. That's a very important kind of room for them and position for them. And he at times on Saturday got picked on. Okay, because they knew what the deal was offensively. Hey, if we have somebody that we can attack in coverage, it's probably number 8. We don't need to attack number 6. We don't need to attack any of these other corners that are rotating with him, and the safeties are handling their business. Let's go after 8. Well, he continued to get better because it looked to me like he battled and he competed his butt off Saturday. So that was important to see. Obviously, I have a question because I haven't seen it. What does Ryan Puglisi look like? I think we got robbed of an opportunity to see him. Did y'all talk about that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we got robbed of an opportunity to see him. Hey, that is our show for tonight. We have a whole nother hour of film study, hour and a half of film study to record right about now. So yeah, it looks like we're closing the book on the studio today, but we're not. We're going to record a film study that's going to come out for you guys tomorrow. Appreciate you for being here. Love you. Bye.
I'm going to go and pee and blow my nose.